Okay, well, I want to welcome everybody to the first seminar in UNSD seminar series this semester. And it's a great pleasure to welcome Kelley Bishop, the Director of the Career Centre, to speak today. Um, I think as many of you know, the Career Centre supports students here on campus in various ways. Students can make career appointments to discuss career development topics. They can have their resume reviewed. The Career Centre holds various career events, including workshops. And Kelley may talk about some of those today, as well as also skills that employers are looking out for our students. And this is really helpful, obviously, directly for the students, but also for faculty, I think, as we think about how we may insert career advice into our courses and our advising of students here in the department. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Kelley. Thanks again for coming along.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate being invited. And it's an honor to be speaking with everyone today. I didn't know that the audience would be filled with faculty and graduate students in addition to undergrads. So delighted to have everybody. I want to make this as interactive as possible. So I'm going to invite people to pose questions throughout this. I'm going to leave plenty of time at the end for people to ask questions. So dialogue is better than just me presenting to you, and I want to make this as useful as possible. So I'm going to start with some bittersweet information. This is from our most recent graduation survey where the report's been published. Just some background on this. This only goes out to undergraduates, and it would go out to the August, December, and the following May cohorts for a full report. We are wrapping up the 2020 graduation group now. There's a 6-month window after the May graduation group that we continue to collect data through both the survey instrument and through other channels. And that turns into the report. But this is what the report showed prior to COVID-19 hitting us. So we had the knowledge rate represents the students we were able to track down to find out what their outcome was. 50% of that is actually from the survey instrument itself, another 31% from these other avenues we have to gather data. And the placement rate, which is the full-time employment, part-time employment, continuing education, serving in the military, starting a business, or participating in a volunteer service program, those all add together, come up with a placement rate. So this was a great outcome. It was what we would have called a seller's market. So very much to the favor of college graduates going out into the job market. We don't have this picture yet. We're just now crunching all of the data. It's not going to look as severe for the graduating class or the cohorts for 2020. I suspect when we get to the 2021 report, it's going to look a lot tougher. So certainly it's not going to be the rosy open job market that we've seen. And we're going to talk about strategies for tackling that. Related to this survey, though, the other couple of metrics that we look at that are important to us. Those that responded to the survey, if they reported employment, we said, was this directly in line with the career goals, or was it a kind of stepping stone position like a post-grad internship in your field toward what you want to do? 94% said it was. 94% said that the position they accepted related directly to the content of their discipline or to the skills, the transferable skills that come from that. So again, very good metrics. This is probably the one that we're more concerned about seeing depressed after the impact of COVID, that people may find employment, but it might not be aligned with their career goals or what they've studied. I thought you'd be interested in seeing this. These, again, are from about 3 years of our previous surveys, only undergraduate student responses, but these are job titles and the employers that people accepted employment with. And as I said, I will give this PowerPoint over to Paul so that he can share these different slides. But I was very impressed with the diversity of job types and employers for the ENST majors. And so I thought you might just want to take a peek at these. I've broken down to the different tracks. Here's for natural resources management. And here's for soil and watershed science majors. I would tell you that the vast majority of the organizations, the employers you see listed in these slides, are not employers that come to our career fairs or aggressively recruit off of college campuses. They tend to wait for people to come to them, and that's mostly because their size and scale. It's typically the large Fortune 500 companies or really big federal agencies that will do aggressive on-campus recruiting. Anything mid-sized or smaller typically waits for people to come to them. So again, we're going to talk about how do you reach out to these folks and make a connection. So let's move forward here and take a look at what has been the impact of COVID-19 on the market. The fact is, it's been quite varied. Some industries were really devastated. Hospitality is the first one that comes to mind. Others are doing quite well. A lot of us have joked about Amazon seems to do well no matter what's going on. So anything that was primarily an online service, whether providing services or providing products, any kind of delivery has probably done well. And we have noted that some construction is going ahead full steam unabated. So it could be good for some of the majors in this department. A lot of employers are in fact prospecting. So we do have over 100, I think we're up to 150 employers now for our career fairs, our 2 days of virtual career fair that will happen next week. But most of them are not committing to numbers at this point. So they will be setting up interviews, but if we ask them, how many people are going to be hiring, they're saying, yeah, we're not sure yet. We're kind of waiting to see how long it's going to take to get out of the pandemic. We've also noted that a lot have cut back on their internships, predominantly because they converted them, almost everybody converted their internships into virtual internships. They found those more challenging to manage, and they were not completely certain how valuable students find them compared to a live internship. So they've been very conservative in offering those. So we know it's going to be a challenge. We also know that the graduates that will be leaving in May are probably going to be competing with graduates that left last May. So that's going to create a crunch and a lot more competition. Shifting gears here, let's talk about what in normal times or now are some of the things that employers are looking for in college graduates. And this is a list that actually comes from the National Association of Colleges and Employers from just over 5 years ago. A committee was put together of people in roles from career centers and heads of recruiting with mostly very large college-focused corporate recruiters. And this was the list they came up with. It's very broad-based. Really, I don't think this surprises anybody what's on the list, but the challenge is, how do you demonstrate that you have these skills? And they're looking for a lot more than just showing what did you major in, what degree did you complete. They would need to see explanations of projects that you've done, of experiences that you've had in which you're using these skills in a way to produce outcomes. I would tell you that in general, when it comes to both what they can see on a resume as well as what they perceive in an interview, these are the things that really move people to the forefront and wind up getting them into the final category of interviews. So very concrete examples of projects and the outcome of those projects is definitely going to be something they're looking for. They're looking to see the extent to which the students can talk about owning responsibilities. So one example I often like to give when we're talking about resumes, if you're someone that happened to be working at a front desk of an organization, you could say, answer the phones, greet people when they walk in the door. Or you might frame that as responsible for creating a warm and inviting environment for new and returning patrons, connect the needs of the patrons with the resources, services, and programs offered by our organization, capture their information in their database so we can work with them seamlessly. That's the same job being done in a very different way, in a way in which a person understands I'm owning the front end experience for anybody with our operation. So taking that kind of mindset into what you describe your experiences about the things that you're responsible for seeing happening, and not simply here's the tasks that I did. What is the bigger picture? Did you get a chance to go out and talk to other units within the organization? Did you talk to people in leadership positions to get a sense of your role contributing to the bigger mission and priorities? And how does your particular part of that operation intersect with other functions? Obviously, they want to know about the how enthusiastic were you about the work that you did. There's a lot of subjectivity when employers are making decisions about who's a good fit, and this is one of the big parts of that subjective sense. This person really was enthusiastic about doing the work that they did. And then you really need to demonstrate a lot of knowledge about the organization that you're applying to, and we're going to talk about that as one of the strategies. How do you get best informed prior to becoming an applicant, and certainly prior to becoming an interviewee? Then you've got to connect your past experience with what you understand, both the position needs and the broader organizational needs. And that's going to come from the research that you do and then working backwards connected to your own background. So here's the first part of the strategy, and we would say this during any period of a job market, but absolutely now it's critical in this pandemic era where you're going to have to do a lot more research in your interest field in order to get noticed. And so where do you do that work? One of the first things you want to do is make sure that you have a good sense of the industry or the profession or the interest field that you're looking into. And you can get those from a variety of resources that include whatever journals, professional publications come out of that industry or field. And from that, you begin to develop a hit list of who are the major players, organizations that hire people to do this work in this arena. So that's different than starting with a job posting board where you're just looking to see who's posting now and what's available, as opposed to becoming really a student of the field that you're interested in. Once you've got a hit list together, then you can start drilling down to specific employers, going into their websites or Googling them to see what sorts of news they've been creating lately, which gives you a better sense of where they sit in that overall job market. The next thing that you want to do is think about growing your professional network. And that means starting to talk to people that are in your field. So certainly talking to your faculty members is step one because they are highly knowledgeable in this field. But think about the connections that they have to people working in some of these organizations and some of these companies. So you can use social media. The best one out there is LinkedIn. And I'm not going to have time to do a demonstration of using the LinkedIn tool. If we do at the very end, I'll make sure you know how to use the Alumni tool in LinkedIn because it's incredibly helpful. You can use other social media like Facebook. Never discount people that are in your immediate family or extended family, friends, friends of friends, and absolutely people that you've worked for before or your current or former professors, as well as the names of people that you're going to identify as you start doing research. So if you're reading some of the journals from your field, those authors are people that you might reach out to. And very often it says, if you have questions about this article and want to reach the author, here's their contact information. Barring that, it's not difficult to track them down on LinkedIn and other sources. You'd be surprised how excited people are to hear from someone that says, hey, I'm hoping to enter this field upon graduation. I read the article that you wrote in whatever the professional journal was a couple of months ago. I was really excited by a couple of theories that you put forward or observations you made. I would love to pick your brain for 15 minutes and learn more about where this field is going. I would say more than 3/4 of the time, someone's going to respond to that and say, I'd be happy to tell you what I know. So there's a very different way that people respond to you when you're an information seeker trying to learn more versus I need a job. Can you hire me? When you pose that to somebody who is a representative from a field, they're typically going to point you to HR, wherever the online portal is, and say, you can apply there. I don't handle that. Good luck to you. I don't know what we're doing right now. But if you start with, I'm trying to reach out to you to learn more about the pathways in this field, more about what the beginning jobs are like, what sort of skills does someone need, how would someone in my position demonstrate that I have those skills, you're going to get a different response. And you'll notice this most clearly if you go to a conference. If you have a chance to attend a conference, and of course now these are all virtual, but if you can attend as a student, sometimes these are free to students, sometimes there's a discount for students. It makes it very affordable. You're going to find lots of people that want to fill you in, inform you, and help you on your way, because that is the mindset that someone has when they're talking with their colleagues in their field at a conference setting. Again, the minute that you say, I need a job and I'm going to graduate, they're going to direct you down to HR. So before you ask that question, you want to be a student of the field, get to know who some of these people are that will be ultimately making the decisions about who gets hired into their arena, and map the territory very well. The last thing we tell you to do is add more skills to your portfolio. And here are some that really jump out at employers. Now, this is more when you talk about the big companies for which when you apply, your resume is going into a large electronic vat of other resumes, probably thousands of resumes. And what gets resumes to come out of that big vat? These are some of the quick things that will pull your resume out. The most obvious are anything involving IT, programming, almost anything with computers, data analytics. And I know the different tracks in your ENST majors are going to focus on a lot of this. That's also a very hot set of commodities these days. We're seeing more interest in anybody that can do web authoring, knows how to do marketing through the internet, is very savvy with using different social media tools. And then you'll hear employers saying, when we get to the second stage, deciding who we're going to hire, in addition to all those hard skills, we want to see soft skills. We want to see the ability to be effective in a team setting. If you've had experience mediating conflicts, if you've been a supervisor of any level of person, if you can show that you're responsible for running meetings, that you're familiar with setting goals, particularly for a team, those things are going to stand out. I'm going to put a shout out right now. If you didn't know about this, LinkedIn Learning is a fabulous tool for adding skills to your portfolio. We have a contract as a university with LinkedIn Learning, and so it's free to all faculty and all students and all staff members at the University of Maryland. So I highly advise you to take a look at what's on LinkedIn Learning. I just did a screenshot here of some things looking for data analytics. If you want to learn more about it, if you want to pick up skills in a specific software tool, this is the place to do it right now for free. And I would tell you that this will certainly make a big difference in your ability to get noticed. Okay, so as I said, I want to make this interactive. I'm going to turn this over right away to questions and field any that you've got. I'll stop the share so I can see you.
Kelley, it's Paul Easnam here. Just had a quick question following on about LinkedIn Learning. Is it true that when you finish these modules, you get a certificate or some way to show on your resume that you've done them, or are there different levels that you work through?
Yeah, there are many, it depends on the module. There are many modules that you complete. It's just a LinkedIn Learning certification. Now, I wouldn't tell you that employers go searching in that electronic vat of resumes for LinkedIn Learning certifications. But when they're looking at your resume because they have pulled it out and say, oh, I see that you've taken extra effort to get good at Excel or learn Python, or you took a course on mediating conflicts. They notice those kind of things. So that's, it's worth your while to investigate what's in there. does the LinkedIn Learning automatically put that you have completed the skill on your page? I think you've got to do that manually in your own LinkedIn profile, but it's relatively easy to do. And it's certainly, again, it's worth adding. Good question. Other questions?
There's some other questions emerging in the chat box there, Kelly. If you could, it might be easier just to read some of those than to have someone read them to you.
So Shannon asks, some students are considering delaying their graduation by 1 or 2 semesters, hoping there will be more job openings. Is there any evidence that this is a smart strategy? That's a terrific question. I don't think there is any evidence that this is an advantage one way or the other. We think it's probably going to be a relatively competitive market going forward for a while. And, I think either way, you're going to wind up having to do this extra work, research, identifying people who are going to be decision makers in the fields that you want to enter so that you are a known entity when you present yourself as a candidate. I think that's going to be the case no matter how quickly we come out of this pandemic. I will tell you from previous experience at other institutions, certainly if the question is, well, should I go to another degree? Should I go to law school? I've heard that'll make you more employable. Trust me, for many mock interviews I've done with third-year law students, it does not make you more employable unless you want to be a lawyer. So if you're going to stick around for some extra semesters, I would make it very focused on things you are genuinely, truly interested in that might be a complement to what you're already studying. And either way, use that time to become somebody known within your interest field rather than being a generic candidate out there that's yet another person that's in the electronic vat. It's a great question. What role can contact with alumni play in your job search? Dave Tilley's asking this. Okay, I'm going to indulge for a minute. I want to show you the LinkedIn alumni tool. If you're not familiar with it, it's really, really useful. So let me call that up 1 second. Okay, so what you're seeing is my landing page. And so when you're on yours, University of Maryland will pop up the Maryland page. And what you'll see over here on the side, alumni, you click on that. This is going to connect you to your 3 layers of potential contacts for anybody that has some affiliation with Maryland. So whether they call them all alumni here, I think some of them are people that just may have worked at Maryland, but as you can see, there's almost, there's over 275,000 of these. It's broken down into 6 different categories. So a location where they live and usually where they work is also, this is the name of the larger organizations. It also has what they do. This is a taxonomy that LinkedIn has developed to categorize different types of work. What they studied is more the major or programs, their skills, and then the connection level. So you'll see 253 of these people are in a first level connection with me. Another almost 17,000 are first level connections to my first level. And then another 270,000 are first level connections to the second level. So it gives you quite a reach. You can then break this down by using keywords. So if we said environmental science and technology, I must have used the wrong word. Did this last night and I had a lot more. Let's go with environmental science. Well, something's going wrong. second.
It's both of those. And the first one's got technology spelled wrong.
Sorry, thank you. There we go. All right, and that was bigger than I was hoping for, but you can continue to break this down by adding more search vectors. And then what you'll see underneath this list are the actual profiles. And you can take a look at any of these. And what I often advise students that are first doing this to do is look at people that graduated not long ago and look at where they're working. So you could also put in your, after you've done your research on a given field, if you're looking at, for example, the Environmental Protection Agency, you could add that to the list and look at people that may be working now with the EPA that graduated from your program not long ago. And this is a very effective tool. The caveat here is that these are not people that can hire you. These are people that can give you insights and information and often just give you more names of people to talk with. But it's worth doing that extra effort. And I can tell you that if you do this before you apply to an organization, particularly if it's one where they're asking for a cover letter, in that cover letter, you can say, I've spoken with 2 or 3 people in this organization, and you give their names. Here's what I learned from those conversations. You automatically move yourself into a very different bucket of consideration because you know something about them. And again, you've shown that you've taken the effort to make contact with them, to get a deeper dive other than just, I saw the job opening, I'm applying, please give me an interview. So it makes a huge, huge difference. It's a great question. And I'd say it's one of the main things you want to do right now. Shannon asks about, is there evidence that adding minors or double majors makes students more marketable when applying to their first full-time job? I'd say that there's maybe some evidence that it does, but that's, again, primarily because you can explain why did you take 2 majors. So when a student says, I was really, I'm skilled in the sciences, and so I've stuck with science, but I have this fascination with the classics. So I decided to also double major in that. That's a conversation starter. But simply adding up majors for the purpose of, I hope it will get me a job, does not have the same impact. And I think the same is true for minors. What I would tell you is that for better or for worse, the more you're doing around data analytics and technology, it's probably going to get you further to the front of the line, because that's the easy sort of thing for an employer to search for initially when they're looking at a large volume of applicants. So that can make a difference. Could conducting a departmental workshop where potential employers in their field can be invited as presenters be helpful? Oh, absolutely, yes. And you have alumni that would be thrilled to join you in a virtual panel and say, here's what you should know about my field. Here are the ways that people tend to come into the field. Here are the skills we absolutely demand. Here's how you show that you've got those. By the way, if anyone has questions about the internships that we offer, follow up with me. Yes, that's a gold mine. And so absolutely terrific idea. Tips on avoiding burnout while applying to jobs, especially during this time. Lynn, that's a great, thank you for bringing that up. Here's the thing that I find usually burns people out, and this is pre or during or post-COVID. It's taking a shotgun approach. So starting with job listing boards and sending out as many resumes as you can and hoping something sticks. So the most common experience is nothing happens. Nobody comes to you. Nobody even may indicate that they've received your application and they're reviewing it. So it's incredibly frustrating. And often you'll find that you don't even know that much about the organization of the job, because frankly, what gets on a job description is very limited information. After you've read about 30 job descriptions, everything starts to sound very similar. Instead, I recommend that you limit what you're applying to based on having taken this other approach that we talked about. So do this deeper dive research. And the thing I would tell you to do, again, this is pre-pandemic, during a pandemic, or post-pandemic. Start with the stuff that's your dream job, your dream role. Think of the things you really are phenomenally interested in. And if somebody were to offer you a job in that, you would instantly take it. start with those kinds of roles and talk to people that have those roles. Talk to people that are in those organizations that are doing the kind of work that you think is groundbreaking, that is progressive, that is where you want to be in 5 years. That's going to give you entry into these cohorts, these colleagues of people that are in fact the gatekeepers into that field. And they're more than happy to talk to somebody who's new to the field, who wants to become somebody in that field. That is going to give you enough insight and background to now make a very targeted application to a place that does have an opportunity that you now know quite a bit about, for which you can reference these people you've already spoken with and move you to the front of the line to get you into an interview. That is a feeling of progress. Every time you have a conversation with somebody, you're smarter, you're leaving a trail of your name, often your resume as well. It's much more productive. It takes more effort at the front end, but it pays off great dividends in the long term. And it's frankly the way you're going to get the rest of your jobs after leaving college. Great question. Any other questions? If you come across dream jobs where the application is only on site, such as Indeed, you have tips for getting your application read. So again, I would probably work backwards. Do the deep dive on the organization, on the company. Take a look at our LinkedIn alumni pages to try to find people working there. Try to get some conversations going there. Do the Google search to see if there are articles written by people related to that organization or news related to that. Try to reach out to those people as well. And often those people can tell you, oh, you know, the head of our HR department, this is their name, or here's the person who reviews those applications. Now you have a way of getting your resume directly to that person. You'll have to also apply through the official portal, which is either going to be, you know, on Indeed, or often both on Indeed or other job boards, as well as the HR portal on that company site. But you're flagging somebody, a person that I'm interested in this job that I saw posted. I'd love to chat with somebody. I've already spoken with these people in your organization. It greatly increases your chances of getting a call back and not just sitting in a dormant way in the electronic vat. You know, just for a lot of you have heard this, and I will tell you that there's truth to it. Organizations hire people they know. And so the question is how to become known. And being known can happen by being brought into an organization through sort of concentric rings of networks in which someone has asked someone who's asked someone, hey, do you know someone that might be good for this job opening we've got? And they've referred someone. You want to be someone that gets referred by virtue of infiltrating the network of people in the fields that you want to enter. And that doesn't mean you won't have to go through the formal front door as well. But if someone, and this is typical behavior, when there's an opening in a department, they don't run down to HR initially and say, oh gosh, I need you to create a job description for me and post this out on Indeed and let me get 3,000 resumes. They're going to turn to their immediate colleagues in that department, in a neighboring department, in their field, and say, hey, if you know anybody good for this job, we're going to be searching soon. I'd love to get some references. Well, if doing that produces 15 or 20 names, that's probably the 20 people they wind up interviewing. It doesn't mean they didn't post it, but they may never dip into the electronic vat to pull out additional names. So you absolutely want to become known. Do you have any recommendations on how to best research employers to get a deep understanding of what they do? It can be difficult to find good information on employers or their websites, and sometimes difficult to find connections with people to ask questions. Yes, absolutely true, Sylvia. The stuff that's on a website with an organization is usually the stuff that's been burnished and rubbed and polished so that it's shiny and gleamy, but it doesn't really give you any real guts. I'd say the journals, and every single industry, profession, and field has one or more professional journals. That is the first place to start. Our own library system here, McKeldin and the other branch libraries have access to all of those things, and they're worth looking at. You can also do very simple Google searches. You'll have to go through a lot of usually junk on the front end of what gets returned, but deeper into those, you're going to find other news sources. You can use the news feed off of Google and take a look at what kind of news they're generating from other entities, not from their own sources. That is the start to this trail. And from that, you can then identify people that are affiliated with that organization. And again, I think, don't underestimate what you can find off LinkedIn if you have enough tags to spot somebody. A question from Andrew: how can you approach government agencies where the application hiring process is highly controlled? Andrew, thanks for bringing that up. So the federal agencies, actually any government entity, but absolutely the federal ones, are a whole different animal. So they absolutely follow their protocols and their structure for applications. Everything is listed in theory on USA Jobs, and USA Jobs has I don't know if they call it a wiki or a widget, but you enter all of the information from your resume, additional information they ask for, so that it produces a kind of federal focused resume. I highly recommend you do that. It will take you several hours to put that profile together, but it's worth it because the only way that you're going to get considered is if you filled in every single box that they're asking for. So they will reject applications simply because one or two bits of information are missing. As I said, they're really sticklers for the process. You can find people, even on places like LinkedIn, who are working in these government jobs, in these federal agencies. And again, they're often more than willing to talk to you if you approach them as an information seeker, not as somebody that's trying to be an applicant. So again, don't underestimate the amount of information someone will give you if you simply approach them in the right way. And you can indicate that, I haven't applied yet, but I'm trying to learn more about this agency, what changes may be coming to it based on a new administration in the White House. Any questions like that are things that people are often more than willing to talk about, and then you can go from there. But I will say that the federal government follows their own rules very, very well. So you have to be patient and you have to keep applying through that portal. These are all fabulous, fabulous questions. Watching the time here, and I know that you just have an hour available. So anything else that I can provide? Find it common that students want an MS or PhD because they think it will get them a job. What would you tell students who are considering this? I don't think the reason to get an advanced degree is so you can get a job. The reason to get an advanced degree is because you want to know the field more, you want to know the discipline. You're not going to get admitted to a PhD program unless your interest is genuine and deep, because you are now being mentored as a scholar. You are going to be an apprentice to scholars. That's what being a PhD student is all about. So you've got to have very clear reasons about why you want to learn more and study more. And it's been my experience that the first on the list for most faculty is not, gee, if I get a PhD from you guys, I might be able to get a better job. I don't know that doesn't resonate as much as I want to study this particular aspect of this field. And I know the professors in this department are experts in that field, and I want that opportunity. The byproduct certainly can be, and then it will open up my opportunities in this industry or this field. So they certainly understand that, but it needs to not be your primary motivation. Let me conclude here and offer a couple of bits of advice. And so I think the truth is that we're going to be in this for a bit longer, and you probably are going to find that not a lot of employers are going to be committing to hiring just yet, but they will be willing to talk with you. Make that investment. Try to stay patient. Spend the extra time that you've got to do these additional steps, because I would say in the, certainly with the 2019 class, the job market got good enough that you didn't have to do all this extra work to wind up in interviews. You do need to do it now, not just to wind up in interviews, but to be a very knowledgeable job seeker about what you really do want to do. And then think of your goals right now. It's at least between now and summer. You're trying to get yourself positioned to be in the front of the line so that when they start hiring again, you're going to be the first person they talk to. That is a very good goal, and it will pay off for you long term, not just your immediate job search, but the ones that follow after that. Let me offer for any of you that want to have a personal conversation about your own situation now, you're welcome to email me. You won't find me listed on the advisors on our website, which by the way is careers.umd.edu. But you can email me, and if you've come to this workshop, I'm happy to talk with you about your own job search and help in any way that I can. So I really appreciate being invited today. I appreciate also how tough this environment is right now, and that it is causing a lot of stress. I do feel like we're going to come out of this and gain momentum. It will be a few years before we get back to where we were prior to the pandemic. But employers learned a good lesson in the last downturn back in 2008. A lot of them just cut off their hiring entirely, and then found as conditions improved, it was difficult to restart the process, and it was challenging to make themselves an employer of choice because people weren't hearing about them anymore. So they're trying to keep those pipelines open, and they're trying to get those pipelines filled with the people that they do want to hire, even if the numbers are going to be pretty low. So as I said, try to be somebody that gets in the pipeline and gets at the front end of the pipeline, and I think it'll serve you well.
May I ask a final, just so I couldn't wait to, my son found a job by the fact that there is an entity that helps. It is a state-supported entity. The colleague who helped my son a few years ago has retired since then, but really most of the government agencies, FDA, ARS, you name it, EPA, and so on and so forth, you can be a superstar. If your resume on the application does not reflect the terminologies that are on job description, automatic computer filtering will not even bring you up in order to go to talk to people so they can realize you really can do the job. Yes, I understand that, through connection and all that, or hopefully through some of our students do some internship with ARS and so on. But my point is, does our Career Center have any entity, in fact, to help students to structure their resume for the job that they bring in their hand? Let's say not many, let's say 2, 3, 4, 5, at least, so they teach them how to correlate in order for them to find that opportunity to talk with the people.
Yes, you're absolutely right about that. If you're missing any piece of what they're looking for, you're not considered. We offer a workshop, and I can't remember this person's name right now, but she is an outside agent who's an expert at this. And every semester we have her do a workshop on how do you do the federal job search? What are all these things you've got to absolutely make sure that you do? For any of you that are going that route, get in touch with me. My colleague has her contact information, and she's always happy to help out. So we can put you in touch with that person. But what you said is absolutely true. When you're going down the federal agency route, you have to abide by every single shred of information they're asking for. And that's why that widget on USA Jobs is so critical. Make a profile. It will take you a lot longer than it would to put a normal resume together, but you can't overlook that. It's critical. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Kelley. I think we'll wrap things up there. I just see a couple of other comments in the chat, one of which Shannon mentioned about a module in ALMS and online that specifically addresses, I guess, your question there, Adele, which is helpful. And I see a couple of other questions. I think in the because we're running short on time, if those folks with those questions maybe could contact Kelley by email, that would be wonderful, or another way. But thank you again, Kelley, for coming along, presenting what you did. And I think all the questions that we received is testimony to a really interesting topic, and people are engaged.
Well, thank you again for having me, and I appreciate that you offer this seminar. Everybody stay well, stay safe. Watch out for the snow. And have a good rest of the semester. Hopefully I'll see some of you again in the near future.
Someone was asking about this recording, and hopefully within a week or so, it'll be posted and available off the ENST website.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you.